We are Pro6 Type, a balanced group of developers with a history of creating games together. Our expertise in creating stylistic games with an emphasis on tight and fluid gameplay give us a great ability to work swiftly through the development process. Our team is made up of Tom, game designer and programmer, Dunica, programmer and business manager, Ben, character artist, animation and marketing, and Jacob, environmental artist and effects designer. In the distant future, humanity's reliance and greater integration with technology has gone to the extent where robotic constructs do most of the work. This has generated a new technology known as digital constructs. These are programmable pixels in the world that can be edited with the right know-how. The player, put into the role of a mechanic, has unknowingly caused a chain reaction, both turning themselves into a digital construct and removing the limiter that keeps the robots docile. Now armed with a kinetic-powered blaster, the player must shut down the Omnitron, the central data hub that controls all technology. With the Metroidvania flair, the player hops around a maze of platforms while dealing with robotic enemies. The player has two major options when it comes to combat. The first being their deflector. It acts as a charger for your weapons and blocks or reflects back attacks that are deflected successfully. The second option is their blaster, which can only be used when the weapon has charge, gained through pickups or deflections. The main aspect of the game is the looping of the level. As the player delves deeper into the levels, they may die or complete part of the shutdown sequence. When this happens, they are thrown back to their last loop point. With a successful shutdown sequence, parts of the level are shifted around, with certain routes becoming inaccessible and new routes becoming open to the player. This is an ever-changing labyrinth, while still keeping its overall design solid, gives the player time to learn the various routes, which are designed so that the player never has to backtrack through levels. Noir remixed into the neon shine of a cyberpunk future, pulling from inspirations across the board. Blade Runner's rainy neon streets and backdrops help set the tone for our game. Our main inspiration is a yet-to-release game called Return by Dead Unicorn, using monotone colors for silhouettes and splashes of color for emphasis of points of interest. Going forward, we plan to diversify the level and gameplay, adding additional challenges as well as additional abilities. With the level specifically, we want to expand it over a greater amount of space, filling out the Metroidvania style with a more explorable map and more things to find. Longer branching paths, new loop locations to discover, upgrades, and interactable elements. The player will gain additional abilities with the use of different numbers of charges, omnidirectional deflector shield, and additional weapon options. A greater cast of enemies and bosses will be added to the game, including melee and support enemies that change up the flow of combat area to area. We have a 2-year plan for the project going forward. 3 months mapping out the design for both the level and mechanics that is required to complete the level, including time for design around new enemies and player mechanics. Then it will be 1 year of general development time broken into 2-week sprints with regular communication throughout the group. Secondly, finding a company or contractor for creation of sound and music assets for the project. 6 months will be QA testing and bug fixing, along with general finalizing the levels and gameplay. This is also when we will begin marketing the project as it comes closer to market. The final 3 months will be the full-on marketing of the game, doing showcases, final testing, and publishing to market. Post-release, we plan to update the game based on community feedback, cleaning up bugs that were missed in QA, and considering potential long-term updates to the game, potentially DLC and the like. With a 2-year developing cycle, our budget is based on the figures of wages for the full-time work we'll be putting across the team of 4, purchasing licenses for the team, and for general upkeep regarding the creation of the company and safety fund in case of any possible issues. We were able to make some cost-cutting measures by not requiring office space and choosing to work from our personal homes. Secondly, by also using our own personal computers to complete work on, we do not need to allocate further budget for that. both of which of these are incredibly expensive both short and long term. The major technology of importance is Unity, which we'll be using for our engine for the game. This is in addition to art and media programs such as Sprite, which we use to create all the art assets in the game. The Adobe Creative Suite will also be used for marketing and additional asset creation. Fmod, connected to Unity for sound design. We'll be using a few different programs for workflow, including JetBrains, Visual Studio, and GitHub for active working on the project, and Trello for when designing and keeping track of tasks. Of risks that could challenge this project, the highest possibility of that is failing to reach the market. Due to the high volume of games released, marketing is incredibly important. This is why we intend to start early after our first year development to build up hype for the game. Our overall team is small, so if a member falls ill or is unable to work, it would drag the project to a halt. We have thought in advance, and part of our budget is in case of this. The game also may go over time. It may not be ready within the 2-year development cycle, but once again the additional budget is there for a possibility to add additional time to the development process if needed. And from the full team here, thank you very much for watching.